Hello everyone and welcome to the final lecture of the Midfacial Fracture series. This is Dr. Sumach, your SME for Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery, and the topic that we are going to cover today are midfacial fractures, classification and some miscellaneous points that you would absolutely required to go through and to revise this topic. So as you can see on the screen, the first thing that we are going to talk about is the classification of midfacial fractures. So the most accepted and the recent one of the recent classifications is the Marciani's classification, which introduces a further extended level of Lefort fractures, that is a Lefort 4 fractures. So as we understand, a Lefort 1 fracture can be classified and can be divided into two, that is a high Lefort 1 fracture and a low Lefort 1 fracture. Alright, now the Lefort 2 fracture, which is a pyramidal fracture, this fracture is divided into two parts by Marciani et al. The Lefort 2A fracture level tells you that pyramidal fracture along with a nasal fracture is a Lefort level 2A fracture, and a pyramidal fracture in concomitance with an NOE or a naso-orbito-ethmoidal fracture is a level 2B Lefort fracture. Next, level 3 is divided into further two parts. If there is a craniofacial disjunction or a standard Lefort fracture along with a concomitant nasal fracture, that is classified as a Lefort level 3A fracture, and Lefort level 3B is when you have a standard Lefort 3 fracture in concomitance with NOE, that is the naso-orbito-ethmoidal fractures. And the last one, that is the Lefort 4 fracture. This involves three different types of Lefort 3 fractures. That is Lefort 3 plus if there is a supraorbital rim fracture, that is going to be a Lefort 4A fracture. Lefort 3 plus anterior cranial base or anterior cranial fossa with supraorbital rim fracture, that happens to be a Lefort 4B fracture. And finally, if there is a Lefort 3 fracture with anterior cranial base and orbital wall, that happens to be a Lefort 4C fracture according to the Marciani's classification. The further two classifications are Rowe Williams classification, which is a very important one, but it's an older classification. You may memorize it only for your exam purposes and your viva purposes, and the Eric's classification from 1942, which is again an old classifications. So when it comes to fractures and when it comes to the classification of fracture, always remember one thing. You're supposed to write three different kinds of classifications in your exam paper. Number one, the oldest classification, which in this case happens to be the Rowe and Williams classification. Number two, the most accepted classification, that is the standard Lefort classification. And number three, the most recent classification, which is the AOOTA classification, which will be covered in the further slides. So moving on, the general trivia about the Lefort fracture, just some key points, just some important points, just some revision points. What is a Lefort 1 fracture? It is a horizontal maxillary fracture and it separates the maxilla from the pterygoid plates, and it is also known as a Guerin's fracture or a floating maxilla. What is a Lefort 2 fracture? It's a pyramidal fracture which involves the frontonasal area, anterior and medial wall of the orbit, the inferior orbital rim, along the body of the zygoma and posteriorly from the maxilla involving the pterygoid plates. Next, what is a Lefort 3 fracture? That is a craniofacial disjunction, as we have discussed the fracture line: frontonasal area, medial wall of the orbit, floor of the orbit, lateral wall of the orbit, and going posteriorly through the inferior orbital fissure involving the infratemporal fossa, and finally fracturing the maxilla from the pterygoid plates. Alright, all of these lines that I have told, they are very nicely discussed over here in the mind maps by MediStudyGo. And the causes are, see, in a Lefort 1, there is always a horizontal impact on the jaw. Lefort 2, there is always an impact from the superolateral part or a superior part coming down inferiorly. And a Lefort 3 fracture, it happens because of a severe horizontal impact on the upper midface. Alright, moving on. What are the various different viva points about the radiological diagnosis of Lefort fractures? You're supposed to know three important points. Number one, that is the McGregor and Campbell lines, the Dolan's lines and the Dolan's elephant. Alright, and you're supposed to know about CSF rhinorrhea, which is again a third component which we are going to cover later. So please pay attention. When you talk about McGregor and Campbell lines. What are these lines? So if you see, let me just decode them for you. Okay. So the superior most line that you see over here, this is extending from the temporal area to the frontozygomatic area, to the superior orbital rim, to the nasofrontal area, to the superior orbital rim again, and finally to the FZ area right over here. So this line in a way tells you about the superior component of the face that might be fractured. The second line passes through the zygomatic arch, inferior orbital rim, center of the nose and perpendicular plate of the ethmoidal bone, again inferior orbital rim, and again the zygomatic arch, which represents the lower limit of the upper midface. Now, the third line that you see passes from around the condyle, coronoid, the zygomatico-maxillary buttress, canine fossa and anterior nasal spine, and again the same structures on the contralateral side. And the next one, it passes through the angle of the mandible, the occlusal plane of the mandible anteriorly, and again going towards the angle of the mandible. So if you can see, these lines are not in a way parallel. Obviously they are circles, but in a way tangentially parallel to each other. If you can see that these lines, they are tangentially parallel to each other. And when, for example, let's say if there is a fracture, in any of these areas, here, so the shape of these lines will somehow change. Do you see that? The line will pass through here. This line will pass through here. If there is a fracture here, the line will pass through here. So these lines will not be so parallel to each other. And that is what the importance of these lines is, because these lines are technically drawn on a X-ray PNS view, that is a paranasal sinus or a Waters view. So when you trace these lines on a Waters view, in a normal skeleton without a trauma, they will appear tangentially parallel to each other. But when you trace them in a fractured skeleton, these lines will appear not so parallel. And that is how they used to diagnose a midfacial fracture in the old times. And the technique was given by McGregor et al. Second one is a beautiful concept by Dolan, which is also called as a Dolan's elephant. So they always draw a Dolan's elephant on a CT PNS view or a Waters view. Please have a look at this. So now obviously, unfortunately, this is a PA view, that is a posterior-anterior view. But if you see, this is the shadow of an elephant right over here. If you see this, look at this. If you see it from a downward view, this looks like the trunk of the elephant. This again looks like the mouth of the elephant, and this looks like the ear of an elephant. Correct? So this structure right over here, this is called a Dolan's elephant. And this will look like an elephant only if there is no fracture in the frontozygomatic area, in the zygomatic bone, in the inferior orbital rim, and in the zygomatico-maxillary buttress. If there is any fracture in any of these components, that will be called a ZMC. That is a zygomatico-maxillary complex fracture, and that is when the Dolan's elephant will appear distorted. This is a very, very important viva point. A Dolan's elephant is always traced on a 30-degree submentovertex view or a Waters view or a PNS view. And when you see this elephant and if it appears distorted, it means we are suspecting a fracture of the midfacial area. All right. So of course, let me tell you about the radiological diagnosis of midfacial fractures. The gold standard modality happens to be a CT scan, that is a non-contrast CT scan. Okay. But at the same time, if you are expecting a nerve injury, if you are seeing any neurological symptoms, a contrast CT is always going to help you more. See, the whole concept is, if you take a CT, a non-contrast CT into consideration, it will only show you the bony aspect of things. But if you take a contrast CT into consideration, it will also show you extraocular muscles, nerves, and arteries. And that is why whenever you want to visualize any soft tissue structure, that has to be a non-contrast CT. And apart from that, standard radiographs like PA skull, submentovertex view, and 30-degree Waters view are always helpful in these kind of situations. So how do you palpate? See, try to understand that there are various lines which are passing through your maxillofacial skeleton. All right. So if you want to palpate a Lefort 1 fracture, you need to hold the patient's nose and you need to mobilize the maxilla just like this. If the maxilla moves, it's a Lefort 1 fracture. But if you hold the nose and the maxilla of the patient and you try to mobilize it and this whole complex moves, then you know that it's a Lefort 2 fracture. And finally, if the whole complex along with zygomatic bone, maxilla and the nose, if this whole complex moves upon palpation, that has to be a Lefort 3 fracture. That is how you diagnose these fractures. Apart from that, a simple part in palpation is just put a finger, just palpate the area from where a fracture line is supposed to pass. If that fracture line is passing through that area, you will detect a step deformity. You will detect a step defect, and that is what tells you that there is a fracture over there. Of course, there will be pain, there will be overlying ecchymosis, there will be overlying edema. Those are very obvious factors, but they can be misleading also. A fracture at the inferior orbital rim can turn an entire eye purple. Does that mean there is a fracture over here? No, that is a fracture at the inferior orbital rim, but the ecchymosis has spread all over. That is exactly how maxillofacial trauma works. You have to palpate and you have to figure out wherever there is a step deformity. Let's have a basic revision through the extra oral incisions and through the approaches to the midface. So if you consider these, okay, we have already discussed the approaches for the eye. The various approaches for the eye over here are an upper eyelid or a blepharoplasty incision, a lateral brow incision which is taken here in the upper eyelid, in the upper eyebrow. All right, subciliary incision is taken just below the hair of your lower eyelid, that is the cilia. Subtarsal incision is taken just below your tarsal plate, and infraorbital incision is taken over here in the infraorbital groove. All right, apart from that, coronal incision is taken from earlobe to earlobe, and it is taken to cover the entire scalp. You have already seen what it looks like in a Lefort 3 fracture in all of my surgical pictures. And transconjunctival incision is taken inside the conjunctiva, which will be obviously covered in the orbital fractures. You have already seen what a maxillary vestibular incision looks like intraorally once you leave the attached gingiva. Once you leave the length of attached gingiva, that is 4 to 6 mm, that is where you go into the GB sulcus. That is when you open it, and you guys have already seen what a vestibular incision looks like. If you haven't, please have a look at our Lefort 1, Lefort 2 and Lefort 3 videos, and that is where you will understand what a maxillary vestibular incision is. Hayton-Williams forceps is one of the most important forceps that is used for mobilizing the maxilla. Remember what I told in the previous lectures, even if there is a trauma, that fracture can be inadequately mobilized. Okay, there is a chance that some part of bone is still stuck to the cranial skeleton, but if you want to plate it, you want to completely mobilize it. So how do you mobilize it? You mobilize it using either a Hayton-Williams forceps or a Rowe's disimpaction forceps. Once the maxilla is completely mobilized, you can get it into occlusion, and then you are free to plate it. And finally, we come to the most important part, that is some of our MCQs and some of our flashcards, which I'm going to demonstrate right over here. So what are the questions that I've chosen for you guys? Which is the latest classification of midfacial fractures? Your answer lies right here. The classification by AOOTA, that is, this is a classification in 2014 by Cornelius et al., which was later on adopted by AO. Okay, it classifies the midface into various compartments and various numbers. All right, and we will try to share the article with you. Next, of course, is look at this question. Which of the following midfacial fracture patterns is characterized by a pyramidal fracture line? Looks like it's easy peasy. Since I think you have attended all the lectures, so the answer is very clear. The moment a Gurin sign comes to your mind, it has to be Lefort 1 fracture. The moment a pyramidal fracture word comes to your mind, it has to be a Lefort 2 fracture. And the moment a craniofacial disjunction word comes into play, you have to think about a Lefort 3 fracture. So the answer to this is obviously Lefort 2 fractures. And look at this. This is the explanation right here. This is the same explanation that I have kindly provided to you guys. And now, of course, the next question, what are Campbell-Trampnell lines? Campbell-Trampnell lines are basically drawn on a submentovertex 30-degree view or a Waters view, where these lines runs parallel to various structures over here which depict upper midface, upper central midface, lower midface, and the mandible and the occlusal plane. Alright, each of the lines represent a certain aspect of the transverse aspect of the face, and these lines, when fractured, will not be so tangentially parallel to each other. Alright, so this is one of the diagnostic modalities. And the last and final question is, a patient presents to the emergency following a high velocity facial trauma. On examination, there is mobility of the maxilla, alright, mobility of the nasal bones, and the zygoma as a single unit separate from a cranial base. That is your cue. Mobility of nose, zygoma, maxilla from the cranial base. You already know the answer, but let's just read through it. Alright, which of the following fracture patterns best describes? The answer we all know is a Lefort 3 fracture, but let's have a look at the explanation that I've provided. Look at this. Lefort 3 fracture, it completes the separation of facial skeleton from the cranial base. So this was the explanation for it being a Lefort 3 fracture, because your zygoma, your maxilla, and your nose are completely separated. Alright, so on that note, we have finished the midfacial aspect part of it, but there are more lectures coming up. We are yet to take a lecture on zygomatico-maxillary complexes. We are yet to take a lecture on orbital fractures, and these are the kind of surgeries that I love performing. So I think you're going to love the practical aspect of it when I teach these things. Alright, so please stay tuned with us, follow us, like us, and subscribe us on MediStudyGo. And this is Dr. Sumach Shinde signing off as your maxillofacial surgeon SME. Alright, thank you very much.